mentor for kids, gay and straight, boys and girls. He loved kids, and the children of the neighborhood would just flock around him. And you know, I really loved him. My mom and dad are still alive. I'm very close to them. They are very good people. But when I first came out, you know, I scared them to death. And my father was a clinical psychologist. He really, at that time, bought into this sort of Freudian bullshit, you know. And so he blamed himself for what he perceived to be this illness that had afflicted his only son. And so it was tough, you know, that first year. It was really hard for him. And you know, I want to be clear, like, my mom and dad are there for me always, and they're getting a little frail now, but they still show up at the rallies and the marches. But at that time, I needed a dad, and Harvey was the most appropriate sort of gay father figure for me. I loved him very much. He was also the first one to see something of value in me and to say that I had value and that I had a contribution to make. And it wasn't just me that he did that for. And on November 27th, 1978, I'd left a file in my apartment on Castro Street, and I went into City Hall, and he said, "I need that file, go back and get it." And I said, okay, and I took the 8 Market back to Castro Street and retrieved the file, and then I'm walking down the street, and there was a cafe restaurant on that block called the Bakery Cafe, which was very popular. And the union that I now work for, the Hotel and Restaurant Employees Union, was trying to organize it. There was a picket line out in front. The guy that owned it was a real pig. And so I joined the picket line, and I'm walking around, and then the bus stopped at the bus stop right there, and a woman leaned out the window and screamed at me, and she said, "Cleve, the mayor's been shot." So I got a taxi, and I went down to City Hall, and I went in the back door on the other side opposite from the mayor's chambers, where the supervisor's chambers were, and I was looking for Harvey. I had a key to the back hallway that connects the supervisor's chambers to their individual offices. And I remember coming around the corner and seeing Harvey's feet sticking out in the hall. And I knew it was him because he only had one pair of dress shoes, these old beat-up wingtips that he bought at the thrift store that had holes in them. And I remember coming around the corner and looking in, and you know, I had never seen a dead person before. I have seen many since, but never seen what bullets do, you know. And it just seemed to me at that moment that everything was over. I had lost this man who loved me, believed in me. We had lost our leader. We were this movement was just in its infancy, and I just kept saying to myself, "Oh, it's over, it's all over, it's all over." And as the afternoon went on and they took the body out and we found the tape that he'd left for us to play because he predicted his death, that is true. I just kept saying to myself, it's over, it's over, it's over. We've lost everything. And then that night the sun set. And people by the thousands and the tens of thousands began to walk to Castro and Market Street. They were gay and lesbian and straight and young and old and black and brown and white. And by the time the sun set, we filled the street for block after block after block, tens, thousands of people carrying candles and walking in absolute silence down Market Street to City Hall. And I remember walking in that river of candlelight down Market Street and knowing that it wasn't over, it was just beginning. Dan White went on trial. Somehow in San Francisco they came up with a jury that was all straight and all white. Go figure. And on May 21st, 1979, the verdict came out. And people again left their homes and schools and places of business and gathered on Castro Street. But that night we weren't carrying candles. We were carrying torches and clubs. And we didn't walk silently down Market Street. We ran down Market Street, screaming bloody murder. And we stormed City Hall. The police assembled on Polk Street, gladiator style, marching with their shields and beating their clubs against the shields and grunting. And we dispersed and scattered and ran in panic through the Civic Center plaza as they fired tear gas canisters in. And then in one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen in my life, a group of us were frightened that people were going to get trampled, and we started shouting, "Slow down, slow down." And then some really big lesbians came up to us and said, "Slow down, slow down." And we all started chanting in unison, "Slow down, slow down, don't run, don't run." And other people in the crowd began to hear this chant, and they got what we were trying to do. Slow down, don't run, turn around, fight back, turn around, fight back. And then that crowd, panicking, running, slowed down, stopped running, turned around, and threw themselves against the lines of the police and drove them back 4 blocks and burned every police car they left behind. I am not a violent man. I don't want violence, and I am grateful that no one was killed that night. But I'm also grateful that we had the courage and the sense of history was with us. We knew that this was a turning point, and it was a turning point. It was a transformational moment for the city. I was then summoned to the grand jury. I don't know how many of you know about what a grand jury is. It's an interesting institution in our democratic society where you can be summoned to a grand jury, held indefinitely, questioned in secret without counsel. And so when I went in, they said, this is secret, you can't tell anybody what you're doing, and you have to answer these questions, and we can lock your ass up until you answer the questions. And we have these photos of these people, and we want them identified. And so I found these old commie lawyers from the National Lawyers Guild. And they said, well, there's this little thing in the law that says that you're allowed to leave the grand jury chambers to consult with counsel privately before responding. Okay, so I took a big yellow sheet of legal paper and some pens, and I went and I sat down, and they said, "What is your name?" I said, "Could you repeat the question?" "It's my name. I respectfully request permission to consult with counsel before responding." So I went outside and I had a cigarette and a cup of coffee. Went back in. Cleve Jones. "What is your address?" "Could you repeat the question?" "I respectfully request permission to consult with counsel before responding." Went outside, had a cigarette, had a cup of coffee, went back to 593A Castro Street. "What is your occupation?" Okay, I won't go through the whole thing. But finally, towards the end of their patience, the district attorney said, we can lock you up forever, and you have to answer the questions. And I said, I am a community activist. I will answer your questions truthfully, but it's my intention to publish the questions that you've asked me and the answers that I've given. They said, "Are you going to cooperate or not?" "Could you repeat the question?" So then they said, "We want you to describe in detail how you got from Castro Street to City Hall on the night of May 21st, 1979. I went outside, I had a cigarette, came back in and I said, "On foot."